Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to another wonderful presentation where we talk about updates regarding COVID-19. And we also welcome everyone. And we also, in addition to that, give you like a little icing on the cake, like an extra topic. We've been doing that for a while and it's really interesting. Please, as you're coming into the room, please mute yourself. Naomi and Florence, if you can assist, that would be great. So I'm going to start with an overview of the pandemic. As soon as I can find my slide, I am going to start. Okay. Maybe some shifting. So how's everyone doing today? Y'all look so beautiful. For those that I can see and those I cannot see, I want to welcome you. I see Dr. Benz is in the room. We welcome you, Dr. Benz. Thank you so much for joining us. And everyone else will welcome you. So this is an overview. Is not really very current, but most of the things, they're still the same. There's really no major changes going on right now. One of the things is the state is preparing for the fall, when it will be like a vulnerable time when the kids are going back to school. So this PowerPoint is giving us an idea of the planning that is in place going on the background. So just a little overview of what has been happening since around the early time the pandemic started, how we're moving from July 2022 to January 2021, and the increase that we see. I know a lot of us understand what graph is all about. When it goes up, that's showing an increase of infection rate of cases in the community during an average of 7 days of 100,000 per cases. That's what this represents. That means like around January 2021, we had about 80 per 100,000 cases, and that's what that is representing right now. And then we go on, this also an image of what's happening on July 19th. So this specifically focuses on a report on July 19th, and you can see the other dates as is going on in the 7-day period. So I'm gonna keep you moving so I don't bore you with all these various graphic, and I'm gonna go to, let me talk about this, the immunization. Yes, this area is interesting. The booster update, everyone that has gotten their first booster can actually get ready for their second booster. If it's been over, I think it's Dr. Cody, 3 weeks or 3 months, 3 months. 3 months, I can't remember the number from the top of my head. Dr. Cody, you can jump in.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was trying to unmute.
No problem.
4 months.
4 months? Okay, thank you. Since you got your last booster, you can get your second booster. I know there's not been a lot of promotion regarding the second booster yet. The second booster is a thing, where I think basically most of us that got our first vaccine at the right time can actually get a second booster around this time. Okay, let's look a little bit at future preparation. I know a lot of parents on the platform, they are concerned what is happening, what is the strategy back to school. I think the city of New York and the state of New York did really something wonderful last fall, even in the middle of all the uncertainty and increase in the infection rate. The school stayed open, so one of the things that the mayor is really planning, the governor is planning, is to make sure the school stays open. And these are some of the strategies that they have put in place. Some may or may not agree with these strategies, but the fact is last year it worked mostly, because a lot of people have been vaccinated. Even when there's an infection rate, the rate of spreading is not as crazy. And when people do get it, they're not as severely sick as we had at the beginning of the pandemic. So this is a return to school strategy. Get them on New Yorker vaccinated and boosted. Test early, test often. That means if you've gathered around people that are not vaccinated or people around that you're normally not around, you want to get tested. We have test kits available at Relum Foundation. If you need, you can stop at our office Monday to Thursday between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. and there'll be someone there to support you and give it to you. If you need maybe a big something to be delivered at your church or something, you can let us know. We'll make that happen. more access to treatment and therapeutic. We know there's a lot of treatment out there. There's even different mobile treatment stations, as we explained last week. I know Dr. Kuni went in details about the last week and week before the last. So if you want to review that, you can go on our YouTube channel and review the last two presentations that we did. There's a lot of stockpile, ready for PPE. We don't want the same thing. The government doesn't want the same thing that happened last time when the pandemic broke to happen. So there's a lot of PPE that's being stored just in case there's really another surge. And the healthcare professional, they can be protected even as they care for the community. Strengthening our hospital system, that's also one of the focus, coordinating with federal and local partners to be able to really give this community outreach. I know there's been a lot is being poured into community health workers who can be like the face and that can actually understand the pulse and feel the pulse of the community. So if there's really a surge, everyone is really positioned to be able to support. So if you guys want this particular site, I can make it available to you. I don't want to really spend too much time on it. So return to school strategy, sending test kit ahead of school. I know a lot of teachers are on this platform. You guys got tons and tons of testing kit. It's still gonna be the same way. The testing kit will be sent ahead of time before we get back to school in September, ready to roll. And even I know some of the students got some testing kit before they left for the school for the holiday. For those kids that are in school in the summer, they'll be given testing kit before the end of the summer so they can get tested before they come back to school. Okay, so that is great. I'll continue to focus on getting people vaccinated. Again, test early, test often, and really continue to gain access to treatment. You want to reach out to your doctor. You want to reach out to this. We have this number right here, New York City resident, 212 COVID-19, 212 COVID-19. You can call that hotline or you can call your doctor. If you are not feeling well and you tested positive to COVID-19, don't try to suffer in silence. There's help to get you feel better. I know there's concern about the rebound, but it still helps to alleviate the pain and the discomfort. But then we know the side effect is the rebound that happened to President Biden. So, but there are other situations where people didn't get the rebound. So that's one of the challenges of this ever evolving, ever developing virus that we're really trying to understand, So that's really the overview. The other thing I would like to share is also the 7-day average of percentage positive rate is 8.59. So that tells us that overall in the city is high. So we need to really be mindful, even as we interact, to continue to wear a mask. I know a lot of people are relaxing, because I understand it's tiring. I can't breathe when I'm wearing the mask and I want to talk. So we do understand, but you want to be mindful that, it's still spreading out there. But the good thing is because we're more prepared for it, hospitalization rate is not that high, it's low. Patient in ICU is not a lot, but it's happening. So just be mindful of that. And total death reported, it's also very minimal compared to what we had at the beginning. But one death is too much, right? Because that's one family that's been affected. Okay, great. We're gonna start. I don't know if there's any question regarding that before we move on.
Can I ask a question?
Say that again?
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay, just quickly, you said that, because I have these testing kits, and you said, am I correct? You said that we could send them to the school, the extras that we have. Is that correct?
I can't hear you properly. Can you hear? Or somebody else can hear properly? I can't really seem to hear you.
The testing kits.
The testing kits? Mm-hmm.
I have several. Did you say it's okay to send it, the extras to the school so they can use it? Is that what you said?
No. I'm saying that the government, they make provision for the school to get testing kits. So you don't need to send what you have to the school. Whatever you have, keep. Because you never can tell, something might happen in your family and you might need it. So keep whatever you have in your home. You know, I'm saying that testing kits will be provided for the school system. That's something the government have made provision for. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, welcome back, Michelle. How was your vacation?
Thank God, okay. Thank
Okay.
God. Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay,
Good
we have
evening,
a,
everyone.
say that again.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
Good evening to you too. We have a hot topic today. I know you're all like so interested. You're all excited to hear about it. You know, just thinking of, you know, I know my Beatrice was asking me maybe about 2 hours ago, what is the special topic tonight? I said, I don't know. And then I was just thinking of the different things happening in the community. And it just occurred to me, oh, marijuana, that would be a good topic to like research on. I did a quick research and I have something to present to you guys. And then after that should take about 10-15 minutes and I will open up the floor for discussion to see. And I know we have a diverse age group. We have our seasoned people and we have our young people in the audience. I hope you guys are not going to shy away from talking and try to say how you feel about the topic that we're talking about today. So today we're going to be, since we finished our update, we're going to talk about marijuana and see what do you think? A blessing or is it a curse? So I'm going to start this presentation by just first of all, giving you an overview on marijuana. Cannabis, also known as marijuana among other names, is a psychoactive drug from the cannabis plant and native to Central South Asia. The cannabis plant has been used as a drug for both recreational and even for various traditional medicine for centuries. So its main component is what is called THC. I'll try not to kill the word. It's called tetrahydrocannabinoid, and its main psychoactive component is the cannabis. And its main psychoactive component is the cannabis. So it is really can be used by smoking, vaporizing. So it's found within food that is popularly known as edibles, and it also can be as an extract. Cannabis has various mental and physical effects, which includes euphoria, altered state of mind, and the sense of time, difficulty concentrating, impaired short-term memory, impaired body movement, affecting the balance, and fine psychomotor control. It also relaxes, it has the effect of relaxation, and it also increases appetite. That is why you find out sometimes the elderly that are like struggling with appetite. I've heard about people that are like cancer patients that can't really eat, that using it for that purpose. So the onset of the effect is felt when you take this cannabis and within minutes. If it's smoked, if you ingest it in form of food, it takes about 90 minutes for its effect to be felt. And it lasts between 2 to 6 hours, depending on the amount that is used. At high doses, it may cause mental effect, which includes anxiety, delusion, hallucination, panic, paranoia, or even psychosis. You know, there's been debate about whether the cause of the psychosis, is it because the psychosis is there already, or is it because it's the drug itself that is bringing it to the forefront? You know, is it because the person is prone to it? So you're going to find out from some of the video presentation that I'm going to show you today that different people have different effects to this drug. So there's a strong relation between cannabis use and the risk of psychosis, though the direction of causality is debated, which is causing what? Physical effects include increase in heart rate, difficulty breathing, nausea, behavioral problem in children whose mothers use cannabis during pregnancy. Short-term side effect may also include dry mouth and red eyes, right? Long-time adverse effect may include addiction, decreased mental ability in those who started regularly use as an adolescent. So the earlier that the use of this drug, just like the same thing when I spoke about vaping, the earlier you start is using, the higher the possibility of addiction occurring. And also, of course, it affects the respiratory system because of the smoking part of it, causing chronic cough, susceptibility to respiratory infection, and something that is called cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome. You could go look that up. Cannabis, look at that color. That looks colorful, right? It looks so innocent, right? Yes. Anyway, cannabis is mostly used recreational, and also I spoke about medicinal drug. Let's talk a little bit about how often is it used? How many people really, we're making a big deal about it. How many people are really using it worldwide? So according to the statistic from the CDC, that in America alone, we have in 2019, 48.2 million people are using it. So it's tagged as the most commonly used federal illegal drug in United States. We know that it is not widely legal in America. It's not federally legal, but there are some states that has allowed its usage. There are actually 19 states and 2 territories and the District of Columbia in the United States where it is allowed to be used. So let's be mindful of that. And also there's some other countries in the world like Canada, Georgia, and South Africa where it is legal to use it. That is just my brief overview of what this drug, cannabis, marijuana. So you look at this picture. This is the edible part of it, edible kind of it in this presentation. So I'm going to show you a couple of videos. Thank you, Florence, for showing those wonderful pictures, even as we went along with the slide. So I'm going to show you a video. So the first video is actually going to go a little bit into the scientific part of some of the things I discussed, and it's going to show you how it actually affects in picture form some of the things I said in my words. And I think the way it's presented is clearer, or will make it clearer than what I said. So let's take a watch and a listen in a minute as I find my video. So if you guys have questions, you can write your question down. If I don't have an answer to your question, we will get you an answer before our next meeting. Okay, so let's take a listen.
In 1970, marijuana was classified as a Schedule I drug in the United States, the strictest designation possible, meaning it was completely illegal and had no recognized medical uses. For decades, this view persisted and set back research on the drug's mechanisms and effects. Today, marijuana's therapeutic benefits are widely acknowledged, and some nations have legalized medical use or are moving in that direction. But a growing recognition for marijuana's medical value doesn't answer the question, is recreational marijuana use bad for your brain? Marijuana acts on the body's cannabinoid system, which has receptors all over the brain and body. Molecules native to the body, called endocannabinoids, also act on these receptors. We don't totally understand the cannabinoid system, but it has one feature that provides a big clue to its function. Most neurotransmitters travel from one neuron to the next through a synapse to propagate a message. But endocannabinoids travel in the opposite direction. When a message passes from the one neuron to the next, the receiving neuron releases endocannabinoids. Those endocannabinoids travel backward to influence the sending neuron, essentially giving it feedback from the receiving neuron. This leads scientists to believe that the endocannabinoid system serves primarily to modulate other kinds of signals, amplifying some and diminishing others. Feedback from endocannabinoids slows down rates of neural signaling. That doesn't necessarily mean it slows down behavior or perception, though. For example, slowing down a signal that inhibits smell could actually make smells more intense. Marijuana contains two main active compounds, tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC, and cannabidiol, or CBD. THC is thought to be primarily responsible for marijuana's psychoactive effects on behavior, cognition, and perception, while CBD is responsible for the non-psychoactive effects. Like endocannabinoids, THC slows down signaling by binding to cannabinoid receptors, but it binds to receptors all over this sprawling, diffuse system at once, whereas endocannabinoids are released in a specific place in response to a specific stimulus. This widespread activity, coupled with the fact that the cannabinoid system indirectly affects many other systems, means that each person's particular brain chemistry, genetics, and previous life experience largely determine how they experience the drug. That's true much more so with marijuana than with other drugs that produce their effects through one or a few specific pathways. So the harmful effects, if any, vary considerably from person to person. And while we don't know exactly how marijuana produces specific harmful effects, there are clear risk factors that can increase people's likelihood of experiencing them. The clearest risk factor is age. In people younger than 25, cannabinoid receptors are more concentrated in the white matter than in people over 25. The white matter is involved in communication, learning, memory, and emotions. Frequent marijuana use can disrupt the development of white matter tracts and also affect the brain's ability to grow new connections. This may damage long-term learning ability and problem solving. For now, it's unclear how severe this damage can be or whether it's reversible. And even among young people, the risk is higher the younger someone is, much higher for a 15-year-old than a 22-year-old, for instance. Marijuana can also cause hallucinations or paranoid delusions. Known as marijuana-induced psychosis, these symptoms usually subside when a person stops using marijuana. But in rare cases, psychosis doesn't subside, instead unmasking a persistent psychotic disorder. A family history of psychotic disorders, like schizophrenia, is the clearest, though not the only, risk factor for this effect. Marijuana-induced psychosis is also more common among young adults, though it's worth noting that psychotic disorders usually surface in this age range anyway. What's unclear in these cases is whether the psychotic disorder would have appeared without marijuana use, whether marijuana use triggers it early, is a catalyst for a tipping point that wouldn't have been crossed otherwise, or whether the reaction to marijuana is merely an indication of an underlying disorder. In all likelihood, marijuana's role varies from person to person. At any age, as with many other drugs, the brain and body become less sensitive to marijuana after repeated uses, meaning it takes more to achieve the same effects. Fortunately, unlike many other drugs, there's no risk of fatal overdose from marijuana, and even heavy use doesn't lead to debilitating or life-threatening withdrawal symptoms if use stops. There are more subtle forms of marijuana withdrawal, though, including sleep disturbances, irritability, and depressed mood, which pass within a few weeks of stopping use. So, is marijuana bad for your brain? It depends who you are. But while some risk factors are easy to identify, others aren't well understood, which means there's still some possibility of experiencing negative effects, even if you don't have any of the known risk factors. The world's most widely used drug is caffeine. Over 100,000 metric tons are consumed every year.
Okay, I think that was like really interesting. I think one of the things that stood out to me is that it spoke about that it could be a catalyst for a tipping point for other diagnoses, for psychosis especially. And it also spoke about how it can disrupt the growth and the use of the white matter, especially in the younger generation, you know. And I'm going to show you another video. I'm going to take some questions before I go into the next video, which sort of shows some of the benefits. Because I think this platform or the purpose of this is not to say this is bad, this is not bad, or this is good. It's to give you information so you guys can become informed consumer. That if you do decide to use marijuana, you understand the benefit and the risk, and to know what you're exposing your brain to, you know, especially our young people and even our older people alike. So we'll be mindful and be an informed consumer. And it's happening around us. When I walk down in Manhattan, if any one of you have been in Manhattan lately, you can't walk a block without seeing a store or like a table where they're selling marijuana. So it's everywhere. It's easily accessible in New York City. So any question, comments, you know, feedback regarding that particular video? I have put the link of the video in the chat in case you want to look at it again in the comfort of your home, or you want to share it with somebody. But this particular webinar is being recorded, and we'll share that link with you at the end of this presentation. Question, comments, anybody? Open for it.
In other words, it's legal to buy marijuana. Is that correct? That's number one.
In New York City, yes. Yes. In New York, yes, it is.
Any amount?
Huh?
Any amount?
I don't know about that. Any amount, I can look into that. I will say that there'll be a restriction to the amount. Because if you want to like buy a whole bag load of it, there might be a restriction. I will say there's a restriction to the amount. But if for personal use, definitely you can. Michelle? You're muted, I think.
You have shown the picture of the candy. They do have it in like a gummy bear kind of form, and that also will entice the children. And one time I went to get a protein supplement at one of the stores, health food stores, and it had hemp, and I thought maybe that had a part to do with marijuana. It came from California, so I had to return it because I wasn't quite sure, but I returned it. So I think hemp had that product in there, a product of chemical of marijuana in there. And also, one thing I wanted to ask you, with a lot of people that have breathing problem and marijuana, when they smoke it, even though it's it will help people that have cancer, but the scent of it lingers, and it does affect somebody else who doesn't smoke. And you know, and I feel for the person who's smoking it because they may have had a prescription or something else is going on, but it does linger. And if you're driving, it also gets into your car as well for a period of time. But with the gummy bear, I'm not saying gummy bear, but it is enticing for the young children to think that, okay, but then they might not know that if you take 6 or 10, it's gonna have an adverse effect on you. So again, I know you sent me when you had sent me the message, if it's a blessing or a curse. So I don't know. I just don't know.
That's something we have to think about and try to figure it out. It's developing, it's evolving. It seems like it's part of a new culture. So we need to like open a forum to have conversation with the young people and the old people alike. As a family should talk about it so that you can learn more about it and know how the young people feel about it. And the young people can see the perception of the older people about it. So there could be a conversation regarding this. Go ahead, Mr. Walter. Thank you so much, Michelle, for that comment. Mr. Walter, I think you're muted. You may have to unmute yourself.
Yes. Let me say this. The attitudes that we have towards certain things in this country are very often misguided. We have to understand the history of marijuana in this country. It goes back a lot further than one might think. But in the 1930s, the federal government appointed its first drug czar, a man named Harry Anslinger. Now, he had financial interests that were against marijuana because they used hemp very often to make rope. So Harry Anslinger, with his power, had produced a movie called Reefer Madness. You can find it on YouTube. And it's just this horrible propaganda film. And it has continued to shape our attitudes. The idea that marijuana should be classified in the same category as heroin, as cocaine, and methamphetamine is absolutely absurd. But that's the reason why it is still federally against the law, because it's still classified that way. And people need to understand that. The history of things always clarifies what's going on today.
Thank you so much, Mr. Walter, for that history lesson. That is something I wasn't aware of, but I will look into that video. But thank you for that. I think, we have to look back sometimes to be able to move forward with wisdom, and thank you for sharing that. Okay, any other comments, questions, concerns?
Yes, CBD, I see that advertised in a lot of places that I pass. Now, that's a form of marijuana? I mean, is that a health food or what is CBD?
CBD?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you're talking about. Hold on one second.
She's asking the difference between THC and CBD and weed and whether they're different or not.
Those are the content. The THC is a tetrahydrocannabinoid. Is the main active component of cannabis, and then it's one of the 488 known compounds of the plant. So there are a lot of compounds in it. And the other one you're talking about, the CBD, is one of the cannabinoid component of it. Is a kind of cannabinoid, CBD, but it's also several ingredients in it. So it's not just that one ingredient. So, but it's one of the main ingredient. So I think they interchange the name sometimes because it's like a main component, that's made up in the plants.
Can I offer an insight?
Absolutely, go ahead.
Okay, so CBD is derived from the hemp plant, which is different from the marijuana plant. So CBD it does not cause a high and it's not addictive. So the marijuana, however, causes a high and can be addictive. So they're derived from two different plants. CBD can also be found in marijuana, but it's not THC, which is the psychotic ingredient for marijuana. Okay, so that's why you see a lot of CBD products, and they're used also in cancer, chemotherapy, and arthritis, and other chronic pain issues that people may have, because it's not addictive and it doesn't cause that high like marijuana does, like THC from marijuana. So yeah.
So they've been able to separate the CBD from the marijuana to be able to use that benefits?
No, so CBD comes from the hemp plant. So it's a different plant. It has similar properties to the marijuana plant, but it doesn't cause the same high or the addictive properties of the marijuana plant.
But I did read somewhere that they both have, that marijuana has both components.
Yes, but that's marijuana.
Okay. So marijuana has both components, but the hemp plant has the CBD is also derived just from the hemp plant,
right?
Can be used for okay. Yeah.
All right. So you'll see on the street, and also in the pharmacies, etc. And before it became widely available and widely used, we used to also prescribe it for patients that have chronic pain situations, like chronic arthritis, especially when you cannot give a non-steroidal or a steroidal drug because of the, it tears up the lining of your stomach. So we would prescribe CBD oils, CBD capsules, because they're non-addictive and they don't cause that high like marijuana does. But then also we would prescribe marijuana pills, because there is prescription marijuana for patients who have a higher tolerance, to pain, etc. So there's different ways that you can do this. And I mean, we've been prescribing both for years and years. So that's not new. But what's new is just having them as an over-the-counter drugs, over-the-counter, availability to the public. But a lot of people use CBD because it doesn't have the addictive effects of marijuana.
Okay, thank you. So, so one of the challenges is the fact that, the street availability is not like controlled. Because the kind that Dr. Kearney and our colleague will prescribe, you're like in a controlled environment. But the one you'll find on the street, whether it's in form of edible or in form of smoking, is not controlled. That's where caution has to be. You have to be really cautious of what you're doing, and why you're doing it. So that's really, really important, about that. Right, Dr. Kearney?
Yes, as with all supplements and vitamins, there is no controlling agency like the FDA to control the quality of the product that you're getting and the quantity of the active ingredient. So, in the case of marijuana or these gummies, marijuana gummies and all of this stuff like that. So there's no, the FDA doesn't control the manufacturing process. And so you can get, varied strengths of the active ingredient from what you're getting on the street.
Thank you. I think the other piece I also want to mention is the fact that, some of the liquid form of it, they can also be put in vaping. So you want to be careful with that, because of course, when you vape, it seems like it's less harmful, but it's not. You actually might be taking more in than when you smoke. So just be mindful of that, when you engage in that. So I have one more video to show that just is something from CNN that shows a family with a child that is autistic, how they were able to use this to support their child. So let's listen. Okay.
Disorder have often struggled since there is no FDA-approved drugs to treat the core symptoms of autism. One of the more common and challenging of those symptoms is self-harm and violence. Now, more parents are turning to marijuana to help their children. Dr. Sanjay Gupta introduces us to some of these families in a CNN special report, Weed 6, Marijuana and Autism.
It was on a car ride like this when the Zartlers first tried marijuana. Rides that before cannabis they never even dreamed of taking, because this would happen. But one day, in June of 2009, they had no choice. Kara had an important doctor's appointment 5 hours away in Galveston, Texas. Christy and Mark decided to try the marijuana brownies that their neighbor had made.
I just gave it to her and she ate it. And it was about an hour where she was sitting, no longer rocking, no longer hand flapping, no longer hitting. And she's sitting there and she's looking out the window and she's looking at me and smiling. It was like a miracle.
I got to see it up close when I went on a drive with them after Kara had a dose of cannabis.
We would never be able to do this.
This is an easier life for everybody.
Yes.
CNN Chief Medical Correspondent Dr. Sanjay Gupta joins me now. Sanjay, a lot of folks know you've been reporting on medical marijuana for years. Why did you decide to explore this particular use?
Well, you know, what has happened when you report on something like this for a decade is that you're talking to these researchers and scientists and families all the time. And one thing that had happened, Jim, was when cannabis became permitted for treating seizure disorders, what you found is a lot of those children also had signs of autism. And these researchers were coming saying autism symptoms were improving, if not going away, in a lot of these children as well. So they started doing research. And it's interesting because you follow these trials over time, you start to actually see some of this data. People often think of these things as more anecdotal, and you know, we tell the story of a particular girl here, but she's emblematic, Kara is, of so many others, Jim.
Tell us, how much data is there showing that this effect is broad?
Well, you know, as has often happened in the world of cannabis research, the early data often comes from overseas and oftentimes Israel. So sometimes, so we've seen data from Israel now for several years. They've been conducting these trials, and it's challenging with children with autism because you have to blind the trial so they don't know what they're getting. Sometimes they'll take, you know, the cannabis medication for a period of time, placebo, and then cross over to make sure that the data sort of holds up. But now we followed a trial out in New York that's been going on for about 2-3 years now, and several trials out of Southern California at UCSD. So, you know, we're going to present some of that data, some of which has not been seen before, but it's very interesting to sort of look at not only, you know, what's if it's working or not, but how it might work, how cannabis could potentially impact the brain. And I can tell you, it's not just sedating. There's a lot of medications that are very sedating that are often given to these children, powerful psychotropic drugs, but there does appear to be something more that's going on here.
It's great work you're doing. Dr. Sanjay Gupta, thanks so much.
Thank you.
On Sunday, please join Sanjay for a look.
Okay. Okay, that is the end of my presentation on that. So the floor is open for more discussion, more question, comment, feedback, addition from Dr. Coney or anyone in the audience. Please feel free to unmute yourself. Oh, is a lot to take in? Young people, I'd like to hear from you. Any one of the young people want to say something? Okay. So if there's no comments, no feedback, then I think I'm gonna call it a night. You know, but just we've given you lots of information to think about. You know, and I know you guys are thinking, trying to figure out it is good, it is bad. You know, I think is depend on the situation you're in and what you're working with. So it's really important. One thing to take away for tonight that I think we should be mindful of is to open dialogue to the people in our family, the kids, the adults, whoever is in your sphere of influence. You want to have ongoing discussion regarding this. You want to do your research. If for whatever reason you're at the doctor's and it was prescribed, you want to really ask questions and have understanding. Don't just like, no, I can use that. You know, is it something that will be beneficial to you? What is going on in your body? You know, you don't want to just like take it and use it when you don't need it. So it's really important to have a balance with anything in life, right? Even water is good. Excess of water can actually kill. Yes, excess of water can kill. So it's important to have balance. That's all I'm going to leave you with tonight. And you guys can multiply and divide it whichever way you want to. Sister Blackman, I hear you. I will acknowledge you in a minute.
Right.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm just saying it's good information. And as you say rightly, is everybody is their own person and they all know what they're doing. So everybody have to make their own choices.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the comment. I appreciate it. You all right? Okay, I don't see any hand raised. I don't see anything in the chat. Sister Sheila, we're gonna say something. I said that you're muted.
Yes, I was a little reluctant, but I'll share.
Absolutely, go ahead. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. So just a statement. I have a friend. Her mom has to be about 83 years old, and her mom, she smokes the stuff, right? And the family, her children seems to think that's what's keeping her alive. I mean, she's got some other issues. I've seen her and been around her, and yes, she does it without a problem. So my question is there some health concerns to that? I don't know who can answer, but
I think from what we gathered tonight, and remember, like I said, I had like an hour to research about this. I think in an hour, I sort of did some damage to it, So from what I gathered from the research, everybody reacts to it differently. It does have is that effect on you, psychomotor effect on you, when you take it. It can affect your perception, it can have relaxation feeling, but then, like it was said, everybody react to it differently. Some people can have hallucinations, some people can have the positive effect, but I know Dr. Crony was talking about the type that's also prescribed that is sort of controlled and the benefit of the medication is taken out of it. So I think everybody is different from what I have gathered thus far. I don't know if Dr. Quinn want to add anything to that or anybody else that have had experience. I've heard people that said their parents have used it because they lacked appetite when they were very sick and they were able to eat better because it increased appetite when you use it. So I've heard about stories like that. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's like Walter was saying, it's a stigma attached to it, from society. It can be an entry drug into other drugs and things like that. But, in terms of, I don't know, we don't know the history of this woman or anything like that. But, I guess as long as her physician or her provider is okay with it, and we don't know how long she's been using it, etc. And she probably is addicted.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, those are really personal choices that people make. I agree with you, Sister Sister Grace. The odor of it is quite off-putting, especially like when you're walking down the street and there's a car passing by and you get a whiff that lingers.
Do you think, I have a question before you go on, Dr. Crony. It just occurred to me as you were speaking about the odor. Do you think, I hate the odor too, mind you, I don't like it. But do you think the hatred or the disgust that we have for the odor is not just because the odor is bad, or it's also because of the stigma that is attached to it over the years? Now we have associated that stigma to that odor. So when we smell it, it's like, oh, that's marijuana. I don't know, just a thought. Think about it. You don't need to answer. Nobody needs to answer. Just want us to think about it. Yeah, it just occurred to me.
Yeah. A lot of things. Who knows? It might not have become as popular if, like Walter was saying, if someone didn't attach a stigma to it. You know, we don't know what the outcome would have been if people would have continued to use it or chosen to use it if it wasn't the forbidden fruit, you know, so to speak.
I love that word, the forbidden fruit. You know, they say the forbidden fruit tastes good, right? He says she ate the Buddha.
Talk to Adam and Eve about that.
That's some conversation. I think we're all going to line up and everyone trying to get their attention. Like, you know what? Maybe you should have a big webinar. I'll be glad to host it for you, Adam and Eve. You need to answer some questions to all these great people of the world.
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
All right. When I was young, I had a friend, she would smoke this thing every day, fat like her finger. But I am not in that. And one day, I decided to take a whiff. And I was in a car, and we were going somewhere. And I bent down to take up something from the floor of the car. And this thing went up to my head, and I nearly died. Right? So I have a total against it. You understand? Because of the experience I had. That is me. Never want to smell it. When I smell it, even where I live here, when you smell it, it gives me a sickish feeling.
It brings back the memories, right? You know,
not the memories. No, not memories. Naturally, smoke affects me, right? But when that smoke, that is stronger, so it will affect my breathing. Like if you want to, you know, short breath, right? But I am totally against it. But then, as I say, everybody is an individual, and everybody make their own choices. I made mine at one time.
Okay, thank you for sharing, Sister Blackman. I'm going to leave you guys with this. There's one thing that Dr. Kwame said that brought something back to my memory that I read before about drugs that can become gateway drugs into addiction. You know, research does show that this could be one of the drugs, because if you remember the video we saw spoke about how when you start to take it, after a while, you have to take more to feel that initial effect, which seems similar to the pattern of drug addiction and things like that. So just want to put that out there. So as you guys are making your decision in the privacy of your home, you have all this information that can help you to guide you. And as young people are maybe faced with peer pressure to take something that they may not naturally take when they're by themselves, you know, they also have those information to guide them. So I know we have a lot of our interns on this platform tonight. Thank you so much, interns, for joining us. I didn't even know this was the topic of the night. It just happened, you know, but I think it was a great discussion that we had today. And thank you for those that participated. Thank you for those that listened, those that showed their video, nodded their head, put comments in the chat. I think all those feedback help to really make this conversation easier. Thank you again, everyone. I don't know if is Dr. Sunday in the house. I don't see him. Okay, so we're gonna close the night. Thank you so much, everyone, for contributing.
Good night.
Have a good night, and God bless.
Bless you.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Great
Night,
session,
everyone.
Jerry. Really informative.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night,
Thank you.
everyone.
Night. Good
Oh, by
night.
the way,
Good
guys,
night,
join us
everyone.
tomorrow for
Thank you.
Neapole.
Good night.
I forgot. Okay,
Okay.
Neapole tomorrow. We'll send a link to all of you.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
Okay, good night.
Good night. It was very informative. I'm glad that I was able to come. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you. Thank
Have
you.
a blessed evening. God
Have a
bless
blessed
you.
evening.
Have a blessed night, doctor.
God bless you,
Bye.
dear.
How are you?
I'm blessed. Thank you.
All
Doing
right.
well. Hoping all is well.
All's well here too. Bye.
Okay, good night, everyone. Thank you so much.
Okay, good night.
Thank you, Naomi. I appreciate